Hey, everybody, take a listen to this podcast about how parents disrespect teachers and a little bit of reference to me about something I wrote a while ago.
Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? We're tackling something that's probably on all our minds. Parenting. Like, how can we do this thing even better?
Yeah, it's a never-ending journey, right?
Totally. And, we stumble on some interesting stuff that gets right to the heart of it.
Oh, lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this. We've got this funny blog post from Cafe Mom about all the stuff parents blame on teachers. And then, to balance it out, we've got this opinion piece by, get this, a futurist.
Whoa, hold on. A what now?
A futurist. Basically, he's like a professional trend spotter. He looks at what's happening now and tries to predict how things will shake out down the road.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Who is this guy?
His name's Richard Wurzel, and his piece is all about how society is like totally changing the relationship between parents and teachers.
So we've got humor and we've got big picture thinking. Sounds like a good mix.
Right. So the big question we're wrestling with today is, are parents getting a bad rap, or have things actually changed that much?
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, that Cafe Mom article, it's hilarious, but it also makes you think. It lists all those classic parent complaints like, my kid's failing math, must be the teacher's fault, or they can't sit still in class for 2 seconds, the teacher needs to get them under control.
Oh yeah, I've heard those a time or two. But I guess it makes you wonder, are those really just teacher problems, or is there something else going on?
That's the thing. It's so easy to point fingers, especially when you're, stressed and just want your kids to do well.
And I think that's where Wurzel's piece comes in. He's saying there's this bigger context we need to consider, like how society views teachers now compared to, say, a generation ago.
Exactly. He thinks respect for teachers has really declined. And it's not just about like individual parents being difficult. It's about big changes in how we view the teaching profession, how education gets tangled up in politics.
Yeah, and how parents themselves might be changing. He even throws out this term, the little emperor syndrome.
Little emperor syndrome. That sounds kind of intense.
Right. Basically, he's saying that because families are having fewer kids these days, those kids might be getting way more spoiled. Like little emperors ruling the roost.
Oh, wow. I can see how that could lead to problems in the classroom for sure.
Yeah. Classrooms full of mini dictators. That's a teacher's dream. But Wurzel's point is that this spoiling might not even be intentional.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. Parents are super busy, stressed out, often feeling guilty about not spending enough time with their kids. So maybe they overcompensate. They give in to every little whim to avoid conflict or make up for lost time.
I can see that happening.
And if kids are used to getting everything they want at home, they might not handle even minor setbacks at school very well.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind here. So are you saying that all those complaints from the Cafe Mom article, they might actually be rooted in how we're parenting now?
It's definitely a possibility, isn't it? Maybe some parents are just so stressed that they're looking for an easy target for their frustrations.
Makes you think, right? But if that's true, how do we break that cycle?
That's the million-dollar question. And I think to answer it, we need to dig deeper into some different perspectives on education and child development.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, I'm really interested in this guy you mentioned earlier, Howard Kam, and his whole teaching the hard way approach.
Oh, yeah. He's got some radical ideas, but I think they might just hold the key to raising more resilient, adaptable kids.
Let's hear it.
All right, so buckle up. Howard Kam is a high school coding teacher, and he does things totally differently.
How differently are we talking?
Instead of starting his students off with those kid-friendly coding apps or, drag and drop interfaces, he throws them right into the deep end with like professional level programming languages. Python, JavaScript, the real deal.
Wow, that's bold. So it's like learning to swim by being chucked in the ocean. What's his reasoning there?
He believes that using those real-world tools right from the beginning gives kids a much more authentic learning experience. And it forces them to think critically about like the underlying concepts instead of just, clicking their way to a solution.
I see. No training wheels on this coding bike.
Exactly. It's all about confronting the complexity head on because that's how you develop a deeper understanding of how things actually work.
Sounds tough, but I bet it builds some serious problem-solving skills.
That's exactly Kam's point. He sees coding not just as, a technical skill, but as a way to develop those essential 21st century skills. Critical thinking, adaptability, resilience, the whole package.
Resilience, huh? That seems to be a recurring theme here. Didn't Wurzel also talk about the importance of resilience in kids?
He did. And here's the thing. Kam has a really unique perspective on how to build that resilience.
I'm all ears. Tell me more.
So instead of treating failure as this like terrible thing to be avoided at all costs, he actually encourages his students to embrace it.
Embrace failure. Hold on, how does that work?
He tells them to expect to make mistakes, like a lot of mistakes, to get things wrong, to hit roadblocks.
Sure.
But to see those setbacks as opportunities to learn and improve.
So he's basically reframing failure as part of the process. Like, you can't get to success without stumbling a few times along the way.
Yeah. And he even bakes that into his grading system.
What do you mean?
He doesn't just focus on whether a student gets the right answer. He also looks at their effort, their problem-solving process, their willingness to learn from those mistakes.
Wow, that's a really different approach. So it's not just about the destination, it's about the journey.
Totally. And, I think that's a really powerful lesson for us as parents, too.
You're thinking we might be doing the same thing as those well-meaning coding apps, shielding our kids from too much difficulty.
Think about it. How often do we jump in to rescue our kids at the first sign of struggle? We smooth over their mistakes. We try to make everything as easy as possible.
Because we want to protect them.
Of course. But what if, by doing that, we're actually sending the message that failure is something to be ashamed of, something to be avoided at all costs?
That's a good point. Maybe we need to rethink our approach.
What if we took a page from Kam's book and started to see our kids' struggles as opportunities for growth?
So instead of fearing failure, we'd teach them to embrace it.
Yeah. To see those challenges as chances to learn, to adapt, to become more resilient.
Now that's a parenting philosophy I can get behind. But it sounds pretty tough to put into practice. Like, how do you encourage a kid to embrace failure when they're, melting down over a lost toy or a bad grade?
I hear you. It's definitely a challenge. But I think there are some practical things we can do to start shifting that mindset, both for ourselves and our kids.
All right, I'm ready. Let's hear those strategies.
So first things first, I think it's about creating a safe space for mistakes.
A safe space, like where it's okay to mess up without getting, a lecture.
Exactly. Where kids know they won't be judged or ridiculed for not getting things right on the first try.
Yeah, that makes sense. But how do you actually do that? Like, what does that look like in practice?
Well, it starts with us, right? Like how we react when our kids do screw up.
So less, what were you thinking? And more, what?
More like, hey, it's okay, we all make mistakes. Let's figure out what happened and how we can learn from it.
So being their cheerleader, not their critic.
Totally. And you know what else is super important? Modeling that same behavior ourselves.
Oh, you mean like letting our kids see that we're not perfect either?
Exactly. Showing them that we make mistakes too, but we don't let that stop us. We learn and we grow from those experiences.
That's powerful. Kids need to see that, right? That it's normal to struggle, to mess up, to have to try again.
It's like we're saying, hey, we're all in this together. Life is messy, but we can handle it.
Okay, so we're creating that safe space. We're walking the walk ourselves. But what about those times when our kids are really, truly stuck? Like, they're trying, but just can't seem to get it.
That's tough, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to help, but you don't want to just swoop in and solve the problem for them.
Right, because then they don't learn anything.
Exactly. So this is where I think asking the right questions can be super helpful.
Oh, interesting. Instead of just giving them the answer, you ask questions to guide them.
Yeah. Like instead of saying, here, let me do that for you, try asking, what have you tried so far? Yeah. Or what do you think might work?
So you're basically empowering them to think critically and come up with their own strategies.
Yep. And if they're really struggling, you can offer suggestions, but in a way that still encourages them to take ownership of the process.
Give me an example.
So instead of saying do this, then do that, you might say something like, have you considered trying this approach? Or maybe you could research some different techniques online.
So you're being more like a coach than, a rescuer.
Exactly. And sometimes, the best support you can offer is just your presence and encouragement.
Just being there with them, letting them know you believe in them.
Yeah. Sometimes that's all they need. That unconditional support, that belief in their ability to figure things out, that's what helps them build that confidence and resilience.
Makes sense. So big picture here, we're talking about a pretty fundamental shift, right? Like how we view difficulty, how we view failure.
It's not easy, but I think it's worth it, don't you?
I do. I mean, the whole point of parenting is to equip our kids to handle life, right? And life is full of challenges.
For sure. So do we try to shield them from all those challenges, or do we give them the tools they need to face those challenges head on?
I think we both know the answer to that one.
It's about teaching them to embrace the hard stuff, to learn from their mistakes, to keep going even when things get tough.
And, that brings us back to Wurzel and his concerns about respect for teachers. It's like, we've been so focused on how parents can do better, but we can't forget about the teachers in all of this.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in our own little bubbles, but teachers are out there on the front lines every day. They're shaping young minds, and if Wurzel's right about those big societal shifts, well, their job is getting even tougher.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, more than ever, teachers need support and understanding from parents.
For sure. It's not about blaming them for every little problem. It's about recognizing that they're dealing with some seriously complex issues.
Right. And they need collaboration from parents, not constant criticism.
Imagine if we could all get on the same page, parents and teachers working together, really partnering up.
With the shared goal of helping kids thrive instead of battling each other.
Totally. And maybe, just maybe, if we embrace some of these ideas we've been talking about, about resilience and embracing the hard stuff, maybe that could help bridge that gap.
Yeah, shift the conversation from blame to teamwork.
Exactly. Seeing teachers as allies, not adversaries.
We're all on the same team at the end of the day. Parents, teachers, and of course the kids.
And that team's mission, well, it's to give kids the tools and the mindset they need, not just to survive, but to really thrive in the world.
No matter what life throws at them.
Right. So to all you parents out there listening, we hope this deep dive has given you some new things to think about.
It's not about being perfect parents. Nobody is. It's about embracing the messiness, the challenges,
and the incredible journey that is raising kids.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Keep those questions coming. Keep learning. Keep exploring.
And until next time, happy parenting, everyone.